Hey guys, Monsingan here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, and so today we are going to be talking about the potential of the global Dokkan campaign headliners and how exactly they could potentially become the best unit in the game. So this is obviously just pure speculation. I just wanted to get a discussion going, see what people in the community were thinking. We're going to be going through some of the replies to this tweet. Obviously, if you did not see the tweet or didn't get a chance to reply before I recorded the video, I'm still very interested to know what you guys think, so do let me know down below in the comment section. But as you can see from the way I worded the tweet here, Global Dokkan Campaign is an anniversary level celebration. That's what they keep saying. With those, because it's usually the anniversary, right, was the only one. Because remember, they've never referred to the worldwide celebration before as like an anniversary level celebration, right? So with the anniversary, we often expect at least one of the new units to be the new best unit in the game. But how do they even make a unit better than Vegito? How would they balance it? What do you guys think? So obviously, like Vegito, I guess straight away the thing to think about is, I guess they balanced Vegito around the fact that he's very limited, right? You can't get him out straight away on turn 1. And then when you do get him out, he's only out for limited turns. Obviously, his first turn, or at least the turn you use the active skill, whether it be the first one or the second one, is his most powerful because of the target ability and all the extra defense. But even on the turn, like if you get him out and you use the active skill turn 1, if you somehow haven't won the event by the time he comes back around, it's not like he's bad on the turn where he doesn't get the active skill, right? And the sheer amount of damage that he puts out with counters on that one turn with the active skill, like he is the single like largest damage dealing unit in the game, right? Like you can get up to some shenanigans with the Gogeta active skill. Like Gogeta obviously is very good as well, but this guy on his active skill turn, there's nothing really else in the game much like it. So I was just interested to see what people would think, and let's see what we've got. So we've got our boy Z-Ed says, offensively, you're not. Vegito is designed to be a special 10th anniversary celebratory character that's a win button in any final phase. So obviously he's saying, like, I'm saying, how would you make the new unit the best unit in the game? And his opinion is that you just can't make a unit that is better offensively than Vegito. But then I said, so how would you make one of the units the new best unit in the game? And yeah, probably rotating back to 3 to 4 turn short content, or make a Beast Gohan that also gives 77% support and 10% damage reduction to the rotation / team. I mean, yeah, that's, I think where we're looking is, because Vegito is so absolutely dominant on the turn where he comes out, it's the early turns that you need that extra bit of support. Obviously the 7-year EZAs are really, really good with that turn 1 77% damage reduction, but then it's that turn 3, like anywhere between turn 3, like 2, 3, 4, you really need some of these big, like solid units that stand above the others as the best in the game. So Truth said, once we hit about this point in the year is where we start seeing units closer to anniversary Dokkan Fest level. I mean, usually for the worldwide, I mean, how often is it that a worldwide celebration comes out and is considered the new best unit in the game? Like, it does happen, but I think if we think back to the last worldwide with the Broly units, I don't think many people put them above Beast, like the physical trio and then the Tech Broly in part 1. And then again with part 2 with the Family Kamehameha and the Int Broly. And at least when the dust settled and like the recency bias kind of died off, a lot of those guys were not necessarily considered number 1. So, and that's the big difference, is like I said, they never called the worldwide celebration an anniversary level campaign, which is what they are specifically doing with this, right? So that kind of sets those expectations that little bit higher. So shout out to Goresh. He says, I don't see them surpassing Vegito offensively, but if they make some uber broken slot 1 LRB Gohan on release level defensive character from turn 1 who also does respectable damage, then I guess maybe there could end up being a discussion. And I do think that that is probably what I would say, like in response to this question. Like, how do we make the new unit the best unit in the game? Something like that, where they're like Beast Gohan on release, right? So any content that we have, like on release of this unit, you can just throw them in slot 1 and you know that he's going to be fine there against like any of the events that we have. I think that's probably the way you do it, right? Because then characters like the 10th anniversary Vegito and Gogeta, in those early turns they have a character to look after slot 1. Obviously the 7-year EZAs floating around are helpful as well, and then they kind of have that protection until they are ready to fuse. So Mega Nice, I probably introduce an ability that allows you to swap characters on your rotation with one that isn't on rotation. it wouldn't be more damaging than Vegito, but being able to set your rotations on your own would be a very strong ability. That is something that I do wonder if we could ever see in the future, like a character that has an ability to swap like the rotation. I'm not sure how that would work, whether it would be a character who's off rotation, and then like maybe that could be what that active skill in all 3 slots thing that we saw in that data download ages ago could be used for, where it's like if the character's off rotation and they haven't used it yet, then that thing appears, so like all 3 characters on the rotation have an active skill, and if you choose to use it, that unit like swaps into the rotation depending on who you swiped like up on, or it would be someone who can switch off. But then I guess it's like, how do you choose who they switch off for? Whereas at least if they're switching into the rotation, it would be the character that you swiped on for the active skill. Something like that could definitely be very interesting in the future. It does raise a lot of questions, obviously. Like, I don't know how they would implement it in like the best way, but definitely would be something very, very cool to see in the future. Because with some events, and especially with rotation locking being a thing, like imagine that. Imagine you could use it like a unit gets locked in slot 1. And then you could use this character ability to switch in for them. So they're now on the rotation and in slot 1 instead. And are a unit, obviously, who is a solid slot 1 tank. Like, that would be very, very good as a hard counter for some of these rotation locking events. Because, as we've all know, I've said many times, and I'm sure I will say many more again, as I always say when I bring this up, I hate rotation locking. It is the worst enemy boss like mechanic in the entire game, in my opinion. I hate it. So any ability or something like that that could help get around that, I definitely think would be a good idea. So got Prof says Gogeta and Vegito have 3 kits since they're an exchange unit, so unless we also get a new exchange unit, it's hard to get as good or better than them. I'd say that a busted tank with utility support would be good. Slot 1 support for defense and damage reduction, slot 2 attack and defense and dodge, and then slot 3 attack and crit. And that would be kind of interesting, but I mean the thing is they do have 3 kits because they have the Goku, the Vegeta, and then the fusion. But the Goku and the Vegeta, whilst they are obviously good, I'm definitely not going to call them bad, but if the cards had released and it was just the Goku or just the Vegeta, like obviously they wouldn't be in discussion for being the best unit in the game. So if it's a unit that doesn't have a transformation or doesn't have a reverse exchange or something like that, they still have the potential to make them better if that one form is ridiculously good, right? Like if it was the new meta level Beast Gohan, that would be interesting. So we've got Fade to Black says, tag character that can swap right away that gets 2 completely different link sets. Both sides stack both attack and defense. Each side works in every slot but gives different types of support. One orb changes and gives damage reduction, for example. The other gives like attack and defense. So what's it like, as in they do different things in different slots, I guess. Active skill from 1 should nullify all the effects of the enemy for 2 turns. Immune to stun, seal, attack, lowering, dodge, cancelling, etc. While the other is like AGL Gogeta active, but permanent. I mean, yeah, that would be one way of making that unit the best unit in the game. Like a unit that just has Gogeta's active skill, but it stays in play forever. Like that would obviously be kind of insane, but obviously very good for us, like as the players, very powerful. But yeah, I think something like that where character is super good in slot 1 as a tank, but then if you put them in other slots, they give differing kinds of support, I think could be really helpful. Because depending on the rotation you start with or on the team setup, having characters that like if you need to float them off in slot 3, they're then also giving some kind of massive buff would be really helpful. Or if you have a rotation where it's more beneficial to put someone else in slot 1, maybe there's a scouter active and you can see the supers in slot 2, you put the unit in slot 2, and not only are they still a very good tank, but then they're giving a bunch of like attack support or something, would be very, very interesting. So Kid Boo Fan says, if Vegito is eclipsed any time within the next 2 years, the game's power is moving far too quickly. He already ruined the game's meta. We don't need another. So, I mean, I have seen this opinion before, right? That obviously, because the Vegito turn is so ridiculously powerful, is one of the reasons why, like, the endgame bosses have so much HP. And it is an effect that you can feel when you are using the, like, quote-unquote, weaker teams. Because, obviously, against some of those bosses, it feels like it will take you absolutely forever to be able to actually defeat them because they have so much health, whereas obviously for Vegito on that active skill turn, he shreds through the boss's HP bars and it doesn't even really matter. So obviously if a new unit comes out and they are far away better than Vegito, then that means we're probably just going to get even more difficult content coming out, which is obviously always a concern. Frying Pan says, by making a unit that gaps Vegito in everything else other than offense, better defense, turn 1 slot 1 tanking, better support, boss disruption, etc. Vegito does have some actual weaknesses which really show against the likes of battle-hardened formidable foes or early AoE bosses. Yeah, because that's the thing, Vegito is what makes the unit the best unit in the game. The like turn 1 Goku is obviously not in any stretch the best unit in the game. So having a unit that is that go-to turn 1 slot 1 tank, maybe has like the boss disruption thing is good, right? Like having an action break or something like that's very helpful. Immunity to status effects would be very good as well. Like that kind of thing could be very, very helpful. Sydney says, I think they got pretty close to physical Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Vegito peaks way higher, but Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is so dominant literally every turn the moment you fuse. If we get a character who's able to get closer to Super Vegito's active skill performance, but they do it every turn, they'll be number 1. I mean, that's true. They would be undisputed number 1 if they were doing Vegito's active skill turn every turn. But this is the thing. I don't think they necessarily need to do that for the unit to be the best unit in the game. And as we've sort of homed in on with some of these comments, I think the key is making the unit this really good turn 1 defensive unit, because that is what a lot of these teams need. And then of course those units would go very well together because you have that slot 1 unit ready to defend from turn 1 onwards while you're waiting to build up with the 10 years and then obviously get them to fuse. And then obviously that team is going to be incredibly powerful and incredibly dominant overall. So Igni says Daima Goku does everything he does except he also supports or has 5 to 10 turn damage. So literally just a copy of Vegito, but he also supports. I mean, yeah, that would, I mean, literally if they took a carbon copy of Vegito and even added one thing to him, then obviously that would arguably make him better than Vegito. So I guess technically that is one way of doing it. Sipping Hot Cocoa says make them unreliant on taunt to tank really well, team-wide debuff immunity, higher attack multipliers, passive ally dodge cancelling nullification, ability to cancel AoEs. So there are some things in there that obviously are very useful that Vegito doesn't have, and things like, yeah, cancelling out like enemies, enemy bosses having the like dodge cancelling ability obviously is definitely very, very helpful, because there are certain events where certain characters are just impossible or, you know, at the very least very difficult to run if dodge cancelling is in play. So having another character that has a very strong ability that can cancel that out would obviously be very helpful. Ability to cancel AoEs is definitely very interesting. I don't know how that would work, if it's just a case of like it's part of their passive, so at the start of the turn is almost like an action break effect, where if they have an AoE, it just then like gets broken and goes away. That would be kind of interesting. Very, very scenario specific, but if it was just a cool little like extra line thrown in their passive, that could actually be really good. Like if the enemy is performing an attack, or I don't know how Dokkan would word it, but it'd be like if there is an enemy attack all action in the turn, like delay that attack or something, and like that would be very, very cool. Ophelia says you do it by making someone who's way better than the Goku Vegeta part of the unit. They most likely wouldn't be stronger than Vegito himself, but if they can get close enough, that would be the better unit. Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of thing that we're talking about here. It's got to be the early turns. Upgraded version of Beast with more damage reduction, more support, bigger attack stats, greatly raised on both super, guard, built-in dodge, multiple guaranteed supers, and maybe also even a chance to counter. I think it's really hard to go even better, except you have Vegito turn 1. Yeah, I mean, we're literally throwing everything but the kitchen sink. Like, to make a unit better than Vegito, they just have to be close to Vegito on turn 1, which I think that unit starts to become a little bit too crazy. Like, I think some of the earlier comments are right in the sense that I don't think the unit is ever going to be, a new unit coming out like this is ever going to be power gapping Vegito in terms of offensive power. So they need to focus on making a unit who's incredibly good defensively, maybe has that enemy disruption with the certain abilities and gives support, and then that makes that unit so valuable in every event that you could then argue that they are better, right? So given the fact that Daima units support in some way already, I expect Super Saiyan 4 Goku to be the peak of that in a unique way that gives him a good argument for number 1. I mean, yeah, things like the Daima Goku ability. I mean, Daima Goku raises allies' attack on his super, and Daima Vegeta raises allies' defense on his super. So that would be a very cool combo for, like, Super Saiyan 4 Goku to just raise allies' attack and defense, especially if it was for 2 turns with his super attack effect. That would obviously be very powerful. 1v1, best case scenario is to target TEQ Goku, TEQ Vegeta, forcing out a Vegeta transformation. early locking, pressure requiring his taunt, etc. Essentially a new fight tailored to Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I don't think the tiers move without being an event. So that's interesting. So the best case scenario then is essentially if a new event comes out that is very punishing for like the Vegito and Goku parts of the card, and then the new units are very good in that scenario, obviously with having like the better defense or better early game stats, and then that would make them better than Vegito for that event specifically, which obviously if that was coming out as the new hardest event in the game would be like the new meta, and the new unit would be better in that event than Vegito. So that does make sense. Drace says it's a dream, but maybe make a unit with support active skill, give everyone on the turn attack, defense and guaranteed dodge, or go the Prime Battle LRTN route and give them OP guaranteed additional normals. Yeah, true. That's a bit too OP, all those guaranteed additional normals. But yeah, an active skill that gives a permanent attack, defense, and guaranteed dodge. I mean, the guaranteed dodge would have to be for one turn, right? But that would be kind of crazy. I don't think there will be one. TEQ Vegito is the strongest character on release in Dokkan history. I don't expect him to get dethroned until at least the 11th anniversary, maybe later. His damage is too high and he's nigh invincible. That won't be topped. I mean, again, in the early turns, not so much though. So Vegito, but turn 4 and permanent. I mean, yeah, that would be kind of crazy. So yeah, I think what we're looking at really is a character that is going to be essentially like Beast Gohan, right? Because if we take a look at Beast Gohan, like on release, this guy, the fact that he starts off, like he's got 40% damage reduction for the first few turns. He has guard, then he has extra damage reduction if you're at 24 key. Like this guy stayed relevant for so long because you could just throw him in slot 1 and all the events that were out at the time, he was tanking all those hits without much of a concern. And then obviously as part of his kit, they made it so that getting hit was making him hit harder, giving him higher crit chance. So he just worked perfectly as a blueprint for a slot 1 character. Whereas when we look at like Vegito himself obviously is crazy. Guard, 60% damage reduction. I mean, that on its own is already very good. And then when you use the active skill and he gets an extra 300% defense, there's basically nothing in the game that can touch him. But like you look at this Goku, 3 turns he has 50% damage reduction, which is cool. He also gets 20% when he attacks. So after attacking, especially as the second or third attacker, he's got what, 90% for the first 3 turns, which is pretty cool. But that's like his first 2 appearances. And then obviously the idea is you'd want to go into Vegito, but with some of these more difficult events being that little bit longer, I think that's definitely a way, as somebody said in those comments, like certain events could age out this unit as being the best unit in the game and making a new unit who's a bit more geared towards it a bit stronger, because things like battle hardened formidable foes, those first few turns are pretty hard hitting, but this Goku in the right scenario, ideally being in slot 2 or 3, and then when attacking, has the extra damage reduction, right? So it's not really taking damage post super with 90% damage reduction, but if we get an event that's hitting super hard and we're getting to like turn 4, 5, 6, but the event's long enough that you don't want to get Vegito out at that point, then this Goku could be a liability. So we need a character like this who's just a solid wall on turn 1 who keeps that defense up until at least the mid to end game, before we're then relying on characters like Vegito or Gogeta to take over that number 1 spot. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What would you do to make a unit the new best unit in the game over Vegito? I think going for that early game defense angle is the right way to look at it. Obviously, you know, some of the meme answers, kind of funny, but like, yeah, like just making a unit that is Vegito, but straight away, obviously that would be better. Or making a unit that just is Vegito, but then he does even one extra thing, even if it was all allies defense 10%. Like that just makes him better than Vegito because he's Vegito, but he does more. So let me know what you guys think. What would you expect to see realistically? Because obviously it's like fan-made cards. Like sometimes you see people, it's like, what would you do to make this unit better? And then they throw out like every single ability in the game, which is probably unlikely. But I think being a strong defensive powerhouse from turn 1 and then being able to last into the long events as well, because obviously Beast drops off after a certain number of turns, so a unit that can just be a solid slot 1 tank for the entire event, I think is a way that we could see a unit be number 1, especially if they're giving a ton of support, have utility like the enemy disruption and stuff like that, or immunity to certain effects, especially locking. Like there are certain ways that that could be so valuable to a team that you would argue it's better to have there. If you could only have one, it's more valuable to have them than Vegito, and then that's what I guess I would say makes the argument that they could be the new best unit in the game, right? If they're so much more valuable to the team that if you could only have one, you would pick them over Vegito. That's essentially how they have to do it, right? So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. We won't find out, obviously, the unit details for a while now. When we get the stream on, I think it's the 2nd, they will confirm the theme, and we'll have a bit more of an idea of who we could be getting. But we won't see the details, I think, until the Dokkan Now stream. There's like the day before the event starts. So let me know all your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know who you think we're going to see. All of that stuff, let me know down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.